I'm UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich.
I'm naturopath Doc Will Spencer.
I'm mindset expert Nicholas Spone. If you want to detoxify your cells, remineralize your body, and live up to your true health potential, you've come to the right place.
We are the Cell Saviors.
All right, let's talk about one of the most important and incredible substances for the human body and human health, and something that people are using all over the world, often incorrectly, or they don't quite have the right source. And that is, of course, the fulvic humic acid. And we're going to get into some of the problems people are having nutritionally, deficiencies, toxicities, how fulvic humic acid can help solve that, and where you want to get it, how you want to make sure it's treated in a very certain way from a very certain age in the rock layers, and we'll get into some incredible stories of transformation that happens with this, how it fits into the total protocol with diet and lifestyle, and uncover the kind of the miracle substance that we use in a lot of different things, and we all benefit from. And I'm gonna drink it here in real time as we go through this. So Pat, you've kind of become an expert in the fulvic humic world. Why don't you tell us how you came across the product and what it's done for you?
Yeah, and Will's obviously, I was really, really pleased and happy when I came across Will and was able to have a conversation with someone who understood the different types of fulvic humic acids out there, or even humates as they're called in the agriculture world, fulvic and shilajits in the human world. But just the initial call that I got is, listen, these are some of the qualifications and things that it does, because I was familiar with antioxidants and what they were capable of doing. And when I realized what this was in terms of the number of types of plant species over 60,000 years, and the antioxidant properties, and all of the other things that were the qualifiers, and the most nutrient-rich source in the world for fulvic humic acids, or shilajits, and most bioavailable and water soluble, that I knew that it was, if it was all true, that it was going to be golden. It was going to be one of the most valuable substances on the planet Earth. And when I got it, I said, send it to me now, and I'll try it. And and I immediately put all my kids on it, because I knew what it was. I knew the quality of it. I could tell. Their endurance went through the roof. One was a rower, one was a swimmer at the time, very intense athletes. And I hadn't run in a year at 50, 51 years old, or whatever I was at the time. And I did 22 miles on Memorial Day, just went out and did 22 miles after taking it for 10 days, right? So that I had to test it myself. I always do that. But I knew that I had my hands on something very special. Let's put it that way.
And I had a similar experience, which I've talked about here and with you. And I got on it, and I just felt electricity flowing through me, and I felt like I was breathing better. And I went and ran a sub 5-minute mile for the first time, and actually felt incredible doing it. So it's definitely a pretty incredible substance. But I guess let's take a step back. What in the heck is fulvic humic acid? Is it like an acid? It's just a confusing name, something a lot of people aren't familiar with. What is fulvic humic?
From decomposing plant matter that's a month old, or 2 months old, a year old, 60,000 years old, 1,000,000 years old, different humification levels of decomposition, right? And so that can go from peat bog to soft coal, leonardites, things like that, into dead seafloor beds, that are, 1,000,000 years old, whatever it's dated at. So it's decomposed plant and animal matter, full of, nutrients, and depending on where it's sourced from, and depending on what was growing there, they're comprised of the decomposing plant matter, and animals will tell you what nutrients are there generally, right?
So it's like, in our soil savers boxes, we use microorganisms, soil probiotics, to break down the toxins in the soil, the nutrients in the soil, to make them bioavailable for plants. And essentially, as those plants break down, the microorganisms digest them. And as you go layers and layers deeper into the earth, that process, those plant minerals and nutrients break down even farther and finer, right, into this like really rich, black, bioavailable substance, correct?
Sure, sure. And another source, the Amazon jungle. We talked about the ancient terra preta soil, right? That was created by man, actually, the ancient civilizations there that even had, massive deposits of blood and a lot of other things in it for nutrients that those civilizations, which turns out that were massive. But we already know that as good as the terra preta soil is, we already know that this fulvic humic is by far and away more nutrient dense and more bioavailable.
So let's talk about the process of what the microbes do to these minerals and nutrients, and I guess colloid minerals and how that fits in with fulvic humic.
Yeah, well, again, when the plants are decomposing, and you're looking at two different things going on. The rock that's working its way into the soil is one way that the nutrients get there, and the microorganisms are going to be breaking those down into colloids, right? But once those end up in plants and thousands of years over and over of growth and decomposition, those sediment layers are being built as well of bioavailable colloid minerals that have already been broken down pre-plant absorption and then decomposition. So you have to think of how that's all happening over 60,000 years for this particular deposit. And
It's like a
real
forest.
in there.
It's like a forest. You have plants underneath growing and dying all the time, and you have trees growing up and the leaves falling down, and all that sediment is building up over the years and continuing to get thicker and thicker and thicker. That's the sediment layer that we're talking about, like under the forest.
So within those layers, there's shallow layers. I guess there's a layer, an age of maturity that's kind of like that sweet spot. And then does it turn into petroleum or rock, or is that what shilajits are drawn from? I guess, can you explain that stratification process and where the perfect fulvic humic comes from?
Well, the older it gets, the more fossilized it becomes and will basically turn into a coal substance, so yeah, it'll be a living bog to laterites, the soft coals, things like that, and then more the shale, and then of course the oil, the petroleum, the raw petroleums, and the shilajits, which is a tar-like substance that comes out of the side of mountains in the Himalayas, right? And now, while the older it gets, the less bioavailable it is, and Will can elaborate on that in terms of the microorganisms that are still there or not there at all anymore, based on once it's turned into fossilized rock, there's going to be less bioavailability
For humans, but for certain microorganisms, that's what they can thrive on, correct?
Because the deposits of rock and the any types of minerals in the Earth's crust that work their way into the soil, that's the natural process. So it's that back and forth for the particular humification, and he can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so you have, depends on where the deposits are. Like,
Sure.
like under the forest, it's usually alive. It doesn't get fossilized. It stays in more of a mushy state, if you will. It's just because it doesn't get compacted down. But if you're like in the desert from old sources that have washed into these valleys and then gets capped off with rock and things.
Dead Sea floor beds and things like that.
Floor beds like in Utah or Nevada or New Mexico, there's a layer of sediment over the top that then compresses it down into this, they call it actually a shale, a humic shale. And so that can also be, you get this same humic and fulvic acid extracted out of that. That's been like almost a completely fossilized or petrified state.
So that those type of deposits, shilajits, those are, well, shilajit at least has become a popular mineral-rich substance that a lot of people are taking. You're saying that's not bioavailable? Is there a way to make it bioavailable?
A lot more microorganisms, certainly. The diversity of microorganisms. If for instance, if I'm going to put down a large amount or an amount of fulvic humic acid or humates on soil, and I want it to be bioavailable to the plants that I want to grow, I'm going to put biology down, or the diversity of the microorganisms, to break it down, right, to digest it. So that's what you have to do for the humates or the shilajits to make it more bioavailable to plants or human beings even, or animals, right? So you have to bring it back the other way from fossilization is what I'm saying. So,
But that's not something we can do in our physiology. That's something that has to be ground very finely, put on a field with the proper biology, converted by plants into food, and then we eat it.
yes.
So, all right, so that's going to probably be a lot of work for our listeners. So if I want to take something and have it right now and feel better.
It's pre-fossilization level.
Okay.
It's still a living sediment layer with the probiotics, the soil-borne ancient probiotics. And so let's go through again. The different sources are very important. The living sources are the most important. The higher the level of elements or minerals content and the form that they're in terms of colloid mineral form, not heavy metals, because they've been pre-digested by soil-borne probiotics. So now you've got your qualifier. So what do I want to put in my children's body? Do I want to put fossilized rock dust into my children's body that's not bioavailable, it's not as near as beneficial and potentially harmful to a certain extent? Or do I want to use the living from the 60,000-year-old sediment layer that's not fossilized, that is truly absorbed, the cells can really uptake it, the mitochondria can use it, it repairs DNA, does all those types of things. That's the form that it has to be in. That's a qualifier that, we're not going to do anything with a human body, and certainly my own children's bodies. I would never put anything into their body that's not at that level, is what I'm saying.
All right, so two clarifiers here. You mentioned colloids, and we've talked about this in another video, but let's review quickly. What does it mean to be a colloid mineral, and how does a mineral or a metal become a colloid?
Again, the geology, the rock dust that works its way, molecules of rock, heavy metal, work their way into the soil, and the proper, if they still exist in that area, which in, for instance, Iowa, where you and I spend a lot of time, there's hardly anything left in the soil, whether it's nutrients or microorganisms, right? So the rock dust or heavy metal will be digested by the proper microorganisms and converted, broken down, and turned into a carbon-bonded colloid mineral that's then fuel for your cell and has the capability of repairing damaged DNA and creating proper genetic expression.
So let me reiterate that. Carbon bonded. So that carbon molecule attaches to a metal or mineral.
And he'll talk about the exudations and the digestion process.
And how that happens. But that makes it more available for us now. And I think this is something you guys explain that I've never heard anyone else talk about, is when you go, maybe I get a test for heavy metals in my body, or I'm testing a substance for heavy metals. Are the testing labs looking for and distinguishing between a colloid mineral or metal and the heavy or industrial, or
there's very few people that even remotely understand through the university education systems that I've experienced in my conversations with everybody from agriculture folks to chemists to scientists, that even understand the difference between a colloid and a heavy metal. A colloid, what I termed an organic metal, an organic form of metal, beneficial form, where it doesn't qualify as a heavy, because I'll give you an example that you can look it up yourself, and anybody that listens to this can look up. Some forms of arsenic prove beneficial in destruction of cancer, right? Well, they don't tell you what type it is, right? They don't want you to know, or they don't know it themselves, what that is. That is arsenic that's been digested by microorganisms in the soil and broken down and bonded with carbon and made it extremely beneficial in the fight against certain illnesses.
And organic just means carbon bonded. I mean, we're made of carbon. Organic substances are have carbon in them. And yeah, you just Google this. I mean, arsenic is a little bit as essential for human life, and it's also toxic, but they're not saying why it's essential and why it's toxic and what the different structures of those.
And think about this. This is even more, and this is Will's, knows this, that if a woman is pregnant and she doesn't have the organic form of the right type of arsenic, and it's a male, it will be a spontaneous, basically a miscarriage.
Miscarriage.
You can't have a male baby without proper levels of carbon bonded arsenic. So a woman will miscarriage a male child, baby, fetus, if she doesn't have proper levels of organic arsenic.
And that's just one example, right? I mean, there's so many more, and this is why this substance is so incredible, because it's got 77 of the essential minerals in the proper form.
Yes, yes.
And another thing you mentioned earlier is, and let's reiterate that, is living. And so this substance, the Cell Saviors Fulvic Humic, is living. How do we know that, and why does this make it different than everything else on the market?
Okay, so we go to the fossilized levels. We've already talked about those, right? So the sources is super important. We get to the peat bogs that are the qualifier, without a doubt, in my mind, for health and human performance, period. We use that source, and then when it's pulled out, from the fossilized versions all the way to the peat bogs, most companies, the vast majority, if not, I can't find a company outside of the folks that we, everything that we're doing, that don't use acid to pull the fulvic humic out of the fossilized rock or even the peat, right? And so they'll use
Hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric acid, which look up the side effects of hydrochloric acid in your body, ingesting, and it'll be a little troubling for people to realize that every other fulvic humic, for the most part, they use that process. So when they do the fulvic or pull the fulvic humic out of the peat or the fossilized rock with hydrochloric acid, they disrupt the balance of the microbes. The microbes have to fight back. The bacteria fight back. Mispopulations of the bacteria happen because the chemicals, the acids, and therefore they have to then do what? They have to pasture,
kill the imbalance
to have their product, whatever it's going to be used for, to pass testing for bacterial counts, because they did the acid bath before and disrupted the balance of that substance to begin with, right? So that's the wrong way to go about it. And we use natural, obviously, processes that
They don't have to use acid in ours because ours is living. It's not rock based. So it's alive. It hasn't been petrified or fossilized. So we can skip the acid bath tests.
And yet there are natural peat derived fulvic humics that absolutely do use the acid bath, right? And there's some very big names actually that use acids and that end up having to pasteurize their product to keep the bacterial counts down. But because of the natural process that we use, those bacterial counts stay in balance, and then we don't have to pasteurize and kill everything, right?
So in some of those other ones, even if they don't have the beneficial living organisms, the minerals would still be available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would there be the hydrochloric acid residue still in that?
How much is still in there? That is a question, right? How much hydrochloric acid? We will bioaccumulate harmful substances in our bodies, right? So I don't know if extended use is going to cause me any problems or not. I don't want to find out. So that's why.
Sure.
Yeah. So very important to have those qualifying factors. I've looked at fulvic humic acids and humates, and he's been doing it even longer than me, and seen a lot more than I have. Have you found any that don't use acids outside of what we're doing?
No, that's like an industry standard.
So Dr. Will, you had a fulvic humic I think you were using before you met Pat, and I guess talk to me about how this product and your old stuff.
And that was high quality stuff.
Mine was pretty high quality. I was taught a steam extraction method to preserve as much, but you're still causing somewhat of an imbalance because you have heat, pyrolysis, steam, hot water to extract the humic and fulvic acid or the minerals out of the shale. So there was still, you're right though, the minerals were there. The colloid mineral base was good, but you disrupted or killed a lot of the probiotic.
Yeah, the balance. And just to let you know, I won't even say the state that I stopped in. it was out west. Let's put it that way. It was a road trip I was on to go to a fundraiser. It was a fundraiser, a nonprofit organization, and it was out west. And I come up over a mountain pass, and on my left-hand side is a big factory-looking building, and it said Humic. We'll just say it said Humic. It was a Humic company. And I went, well, I'm going back. I'm gonna go check this place out. So I pulled up and I just grabbed some of our product, and I went walking up and knocked on the door and walked in, and guy walks up to me, and he's, covered in black, it's Humic, right? It's a Humic factory, processing facility. And I start talking to him and the other employees, and I'm like, hey, I just want to talk to you guys, kind of see your operation, see what you got going on. And I'm excited, and I just want to look around. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah. And then the more I got into my conversation with them of explaining what we do and how we do it, they were looking at each other going, yeah. And then you look around and you see the 1-ton totes of the humates, and then you see the 1-ton totes of the toxic
Acids.
chemical acids everywhere. And then you get deeper into conversation with them, and they're all sick. None of them can breathe. Their joints hurt. They've got all kinds of skin issues. So that's what I'm talking about, is that why would you even remotely want that, let alone in your garden, but in your kids, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the difference that we're talking about.
Okay, so we've talked about the right source, how it has to be processed, the importance of colloid minerals, and I guess let's talk about what it does in the human body. That's probably what everybody cares about. So when you get on this substance, what does it do inside the human body, inside cells? Why is it so important?
Well, we know that the antioxidant properties, because it's over 1,000 different types of plants that have decomposed for that long, right? That's for 60,000 years. So there's a massive amount and wide variety of antioxidant properties, which are known. People can look it up. Antioxidants repair damaged DNA. They're very good at removing synthetic chemicals and heavy metals out of the cells. Cell debris as well, anything that doesn't belong in there, right? So that alone is very important. But what it does for gut health, because of the soil-borne microbes or probiotics that are in there, along with what it does to the nutrient absorption level or processes that go on in the digestive tract, and its ability to absolutely scour and clean off the intestinal tract is well known. Let's put it that way. It's legendary. So cleaning out the body, but it'll deliver 60 times its weight in nutrients when it gets there into the cell. And it's got, once it dumps its load, and the load's being used by the mitochondria, then cell debris, the excess that's burnt, the spent fuel, and then the heavy metals and synthetic chemicals, it has 60 times its weight and carrying ability to pull the toxins back out.
So pulls the toxins out. I think a word that's kind of a buzzword these days is chelation, right? So Dr. Will, talk to me about how this fulvic humic substance chelates the toxins and heavy metals and pulls them out of our system.
So you're taking in 78 colloid minerals that have a specific charge to them on the electrical bond side of it, as well as the nutrient density side of it. So because we're all starving to death, like we're all so malnutritioned, severely lacking minerals, and this is so mineral dense, when you take it in, swallow it, it processes it through the stomach, and then it gets carried into the body through the intestines, and your cell receptors are just suck it up. I mean, it just
Screaming for it.
Because this is like high-grade food, high-grade fuel, and we're getting low-grade fuel right now. And so because we've are so malnutritioned, we've sucked in so much metal and junk because our air and food and water is so polluted everywhere in this country, or the world for the most part, or we're running on actually toxic fuel. You put this high grade or components into your body with all these colloid minerals, it really displaces. So you've got cell receptors that are holding on to this junk. You put in food like this colloid minerals in the humic and fulvic acid, the body grabs that, puts it into the places in the cell receptors in the cells and uses it properly. And then automatically in that, the body is able to release the toxins and the metals and things because the body doesn't want them. The body wants the food. And so that's the easiest. That's why in the earlier videos we were doing, we're talking about the mud pudding, or the brown, the detox events that get a little bit interesting because your body just wants to get rid of that junk. I mean, we live in a healing, fabulous machine if you have the right tools. And so it'll just take this in as fast as it can and displace the junk and get rid of the junk. At the same time, it's bonding to some of that junk and it rushes out through the detox pathways.
Well, like he says all the time, which is something that resonated with me right away when, he and I first even started talking, was that, the human body, the organism desperately wants to be healthy. We're fighting to be healthy constantly. And we just have to give it what it needs. That's it.
Yeah. Just need the tools. And this is a fabulous tool for healing.
Is this the ultimate detoxing substance?
Well, I think individually by itself, it has amazing capabilities, and I've seen that. And so has he with a large number of people. You've felt it as well, as like I said. But when combined with the other products from Cell Savior, it's even more effective. That's all.
So you got something really good there, but it's way better when you have the team working together.
Sure. The full kit. Amazing. So Pat, talk to me about athletic performance with this. I mean, I know for me and why do I feel electricity running through my system when I'm drinking this? Like, I can literally feel it.
Ask Will, it's the charge
in my hands. I mean, is that the electrolytes within it? What causes that as well? Electricity feeling.
If you're not used to feeling that, which most people are not really, when you do take this, you're going to notice these things happening. That's just one positive side effect that, oh, wow, this is the way I'm supposed to be feeling all the time. If your machine is running, if your body is running really well, you wouldn't even notice that because it's just part of being alive. And so when you put this humic and fulvic acid into your body, it's releasing the junk. You're freeing up and more energy to flow better. Your central nervous system is cleaning itself. Your vascular system, all your systems are coming online because you're feeding it and you're getting rid of the toxins. And so it's just a byproduct of being alive. You're just not used to being alive to that level.
Sure.
Yeah, the athletic performance that I've seen, combat athletes, for instance, one gentleman fighting for a title, a 25-minute fight, very good wrestler, kind of more of a ground and pound style fighter, not a great striker at all. Never seen him even just try to stand up for very long. And actually was kind of a boring fighter. He would just kind of just control people and win fights, right? Kind of rough them up a little bit. And so he came in and looked like he had been boxing and kickboxing his entire life since he was in diapers, and moving at such a rate and a pace of head movement and footwork and everything that it was all like fast forward for 25 minutes. And the entire fight, I was calling it on TV saying, I don't think people realize how much endurance it takes to move like this. And this is a totally different kid that I'd seen before. And so after the fight, go back to the hotel, grabbing some food. And he comes up, says, Mr. Miltich, can I talk to you? Asked me to come off to the side. And he goes, I've been on the Fulvic Humic for my entire fight camp. He goes, I just wanted to thank you. He goes, that's why I did what I did. And he goes, I didn't want to jinx myself, though. I didn't want to tell you before the fight. So here I am commentating, going, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. This turnaround, the endurance, everything else. And then a lot of swimmers, of course, marathoners, but my friends who are ultra runners, 100-mile runners, in their training, they were dropping massive amounts of time and their heart rates were dropping quite a bit at the same time, substantial drops. And they're in their 50s and been running for decades. So in your 50s, you don't just suddenly run a lot faster with a lower heart rate. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, that type of training and performance takes a lot of nutrients. It takes a lot of minerals. Joel Wallach, who we talk about, he shares people being athletes and healthy and distance runners and dropping dead at 50 Well, you run out of those trace minerals, there's nothing like you just don't function and you hit the end of your useful life essentially. And so if you're not putting these back in, especially if you're training hard, you're going to hit a wall. And ultimately, that's, I think, one of the things that I went through
And myself, yes.
and finding this substance and, dramatically turning things around. I mean, something you don't have to think about is I'm a big meditator and, hypnosis and the power of the subconscious mind. And when I would meditate, I would feel energy flowing through me. I mean, lots of energy, right? And it felt amazing. And as I was going through my health condition, that process got more and more painful to the point that I would meditate and like feel like I wanted to crawl out of my body. I would feel so uncomfortable and I would, like I'm stubborn. So I want to meditate through this, but it's the body's looking for a way to conduct that energy through it, through the electrolytes and the minerals that aren't there. And so now I'm to a point where like I can sit and meditate for an hour and feel good, whereas a year or 2 years ago, it was literally like torture. And so it's just an interesting thing that no one's ever really had an explanation for, but this makes sense. If I don't have those proper minerals and electrolytes, the system's not going to be able to conduct the flow of energy, right?
Right. Right.
So hundreds of years ago, what's in that glass in the Humic and Fulvic product in the capsules used to be in the food.
Right.
It used to be in the soil all the time, all over. But since industrialization, and which is over farming and producing and selling and not putting back, it's gone now.
Topsoil washing into rivers.
Topsoil washing away, blowing away. Back in the 1800s, they had all those problems with plowing and over farming, and so this used to be a normal state of health. But now we have to supplement with this stuff because our food for the last 120 years, the soil and our food has been deficient of these minerals.
And if you look at the history of collapsed civilizations, it always coincides with the destruction of the soil and the nutrient levels in that society and those citizens, right? When all of a sudden the illnesses in mass start kicking in, whether they're mental, physical, hormonal, all of these structural issues with human beings, and the collapse of society is not far behind. And look where America is right now. We can see the deformities in mental, physical, hormonal all around us everywhere we go in the country. And so if you'd like to protect your children and yourself, it's very important to put the proper colloid forms of elements into you and your family's bodies.
Yes, absolutely. Because without those proper building blocks, nothing functions. It doesn't matter how much you detox, how many pharmaceuticals you take. If you don't have the trace minerals and elements that you need, you can't build the house.
You're becoming more toxic,
and
more nutrient deficient, and you can sit there and watch your children fall apart, right? And yourself.
And the turnaround can be pretty dramatic. And I guess one point that I've experienced is fasting and using this supplement as a complement to it. I mean, day 2 or 3 of a fast, you kind of hit this lull, your body starts detoxing, your mood goes rancid, your energy's down. And with this, that doesn't even happen. Your cravings are gone.
Right.
That mental clarity starts from the beginning. So this substance in conjunction with some sore fasting is an incredible pair as well. So what else? And in other videos we talked about disease as not existing. That's really just a lack of the proper nutrients, minerals, and
Combined with toxicity.
or toxicity, right? And so this substance
not only neutralizes the body and the cells and feeds the mitochondria and repairs damaged DNA, but also pulls the toxins or pushes the toxins out.
So what are some of the things people can expect? They get on this, maybe they've got some sort of chronic condition. What are the things that you're seeing people overcome with this, and what can people expect to feel once they start taking this?
The joint pain, a lot of inflammation dropping away precipitously, respiratory becoming much easier, breathing becoming much easier, endurance going up, brain fog disappearing quite a bit, and much improved digestion, and on and on and on.
Sometimes in the beginning when you first start taking them though,
Sure.
there's sometimes a little bit more restricted breathing. Sometimes you're going to have some cramping. You know, you might have a little extra exaggerated joint pain, just as the body
The toxins are coming in.
gets those supplements, you know, those minerals into the body, pushes them to, let's just say, my wrist. You know, like sometimes people have said, you know, hey, you know, I'm a little bit more inflamed here and it kind of hurts. And I like, well, just ride it out a little while longer. Try not to, you know, use your hand too much, you know, go way too, but usually in a few days that goes away. And then it's like, holy, my range of motion is like crazy. I feel more strength. I mean, that first initial stage, sometimes you may feel
And that's
a little
the thing.
bit worse.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Jeremy, my good friend from Salt Lake City, who spent 30 years with severe forms of joint issues, joint replacements going on, and his doctor, who specializes in joint issues, inflammation, we'll just say that, said he was the worst case that they had ever seen. And 10 days later, he called me crying, saying it was the first day in 30 years that he had basically pain-free. And now he's a guy that, because he couldn't hold a job, he was in so much severe pain, he couldn't focus, he couldn't move, so he was repeatedly losing jobs. He had become homeless. He had had horrible things happen in his life. And he told me about this, you know, very powerful. If this didn't work because it was the last straw for him, he had tried homeopathic and allopathic remedies for 30 years. He said he was going to end his life. So when that call came, I knew that we were doing the right thing. And now he's a guy that plays in the basketball league at the church and all these other things and lives a normal life. And that's pretty incredible stuff.
That is incredible. And I know there's so many stories that go along with that as well.
Yeah.
So one other thing, let's talk about oxygen utilization. So what happens at a cellular level with oxygen uptake?
You know, the more precise use of oxygen and the spent fuel, again, the mitochondria, I look at it, they call it the furnace of the cell generating energy, right? But I look at it, everybody needs to look at it as a carburetor on top of a motor that needs oxygen and fuel. That being the quality of fuel, the binding with hydrogen as well, creating better and more quality oxygen, right? So you've got in a carburetor of an engine, perfect oxygen levels and perfect fuel is going to generate more horsepower, right? So that's really what it comes down to is you need the proper fuel, you need the proper oxygen. That's going to assist you with both, obviously.
And is that what creates that breathing deeply needs, you're feeling like you're oxygenated, more endurance? Is that what
It's less inflammation. That's the reduction of inflammation, in my humble opinion. I'm sure that he
I like to look at that as the filtration, if you will, or the cleaning of the fuel in the air as well, because that is got such a detoxing, cleaning of abilities to it. It's like getting all the junk out of the way so the air can flow better and the fuel can flow better as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's when you're breathing through a narrow passageway with inflammation, and that suddenly the inflammation goes away and relaxes, and suddenly you've got to, you know, you're going to breathe better. There's less restriction. Same thing as you can't have, for instance, high blood pressure without inflammation, right? When the inflammation goes away in the body, it does in arteries and veins as well. Less pressure on the veins, they're not dilated, right? All of a sudden, wow. Blood pressure is going down.
Very common. I hear that a lot about blood pressure going down. With taking this, usually in about the third month, there's really noticeable.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. How do people take this? What's the dose? How often? How long?
Well, I mean, there are people who have been so severely ill where we've said we want to get this going and get them cleaned out quicker, right? We've done that before. But for the most part, you want to start out slow, 1 capsule a day for about 10 days. 2 capsules a day for 10 days, then 3 capsules a day for 10 days. And we want a slower chelation of toxins out of the body so that we don't have people feeling, you know, crummy and you know, so that's really make it a pleasurable experience from the beginning into, you know, down the road.
For those that can't wait the 10 days, they've called me on day 5. Is, do you think I'm not feeling anything negative? Do you think I could do 2? I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. Worst thing is you might not have to take the second one tomorrow if you don't want to, but Generally, if you don't have anything major going on, you can ramp up a little faster, but we did put 10 days on the label just to make sure that it's a little slower. Yeah, there's a lot of people are sick right now, and too fast to get, doing things too fast is not always the best.
And then maintain the 3 a day.
Yeah, and everybody's different sizes, different toxicities, right? Different nutrient deficiencies, all of those variations that come into dealing with human beings. So it's best to just take it slow.
And I'm drinking the powder. So I have powder. I've never had the capsules because we just get the powder. But
Right.
For the capsules, I guess the number of capsules they should be taking.
They're single lot capsules, so you're gonna need 3 a day.
All right, so they get up to 3 capsules a day. Maintain that for as long as they're feeling good, or they go down to 2.
I would say stay there forever because it should be in our food. It's not. So if you want to be adequately or better healthy, you need these minerals.
Yeah, and that's when you find out, a lot of people will go, I didn't realize how much it was doing for me until I ran out and I didn't reorder.
Yeah.
And I've been without it for a week or 2 or 3. And now I know, because now I have no energy. I'm back to old me. They're starting to go back down on that slide. The inflammation's coming back, all of those things.
Knees hurting again,
Just because that's the environment we live in, and sure, it's not in the food, right? And when we were at that expo a few weeks ago, one thing we talked about with the group that was listening was, what are the odds that these 77, 78 essential minerals are in your shopping cart?
Not real high.
Yeah, how much do people spend per week? It was amazing that you brought that up. Perfectly timed, and the looks on everybody's faces where it was, all the people, how much do you spend? 100, 200, 300, whatever per week on groceries, and how many, yes, of those 77 colloid minerals are in that $400, $300 that you just spent at the end. Everybody went, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was like, what are the odds that these are in there? And they were like,
so economically speaking, with that, you put these supplements, these colloid minerals into you, and you're going to notice a significant difference over time in your desire to eat a lot of volume, because you don't need to eat that volume. You're getting the volume of minerals right here with your food you're eating. So your cravings, your desires change significantly.
And because of the generation of cellular energy by feeding the mitochondria, people will sleep for 4 or 5, maybe at the most 6 hours a night sometimes. Now, there's other people that sleep perfectly and say, this is the greatest sleep I've ever had. But there's a lot of people that will say, now I'm sleeping 4 hours a night and I can, I love this.
Incredible. I'm doing that too.
I'm just going to say that I had a family member who said, hey, they were having some really severe health issues. And after their health issues subsided, they asked, could I go down to 2 doses a day instead of 3, because they were so severe, the health issues, that we decided to go with 3, right? Can I go back down to 2? Because he goes, this is the 3rd time I have rearranged my garage at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? So I just got a ton of energy. I'm going to organize the garage again, or whatever. So, yeah.
It's not a bad problem to have.
It's not a coffee energy. It's just a consistent energy, right?
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. Well, I think that wraps up this Fulvic Humic talk. Is one of the most powerful, incredible substances that we utilize. I mean, it's something that I can feel as soon as I drink it. I mean, it's, there's really no delay in it, and it lasts for hours, and pretty incredible product. Again, replacing the nutrients and the minerals that are missing. These are in the proper form.
Once they get started on this, for the people out there that deal with drinking tons of coffee and energy drinks, I have usually 1 cup of coffee a day now, and that's all I need. Yeah, I'll mix it into my coffee, even open the capsules, put it in there, and it's perfect. Perfect.
Yep, absolutely. All right, gentlemen, this is the Cell Saviors Fulvic Humic. Any last thoughts?
Enjoy.
Yeah, and let us hear from you. We want to hear your story. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let us know.
Thank you for listening to the Cell Saviors podcast. To learn more about the Cell Saviors mission, or to buy the minerals and probiotics your body needs to thrive, visit cellsaviors.org.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making health decisions.